Now, before we start this topic, just to let you know, I am here to talk, so just hit the link in my bio. Now, existential crisis, existential dread. Now, if you're not familiar with that, existential crisis, basically you, in some type of way, you begin to question your existence, the thought of existence, period. Why are you here? What is the point? Like I'm in this body. Like, how did I get in this body? How am I conscious? How am I moving my hands through my mind? They said neurologically, there are all these things connected to the brain, which is connected to the body. How do I know that I am moving this? Like, you get to the point where you go, like, your mind gets blown, and then you come back and you be like, oh my freaking God. You know what I'm saying? And this can happen supposedly because of a number of things. You might have been, it probably blew your mind, which I'm not judging. Or you may have had like a traumatic experience in your life. A lot of times they say it may be because of, you may be going through something traumatic like sickness or illness or, what is it? It could be midlife crisis. It could be whatever traumatic experience that kind of turned you around. And it opened your mind and it kind of blew your mind. So now you're questioning existence, right? And then the dread comes in because it's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? I didn't even ask to be here. Like, what's really going on? Like, it's like, I got to get out of this body one day, right? Because everybody passes away, right? You're just like, oh, your mind just goes wild. Now, the reason why that I can relate to this is because I've gone through that a couple of times on different scales. The last time I went through it, oh my goodness. Okay. Now, me, if you know me, of course, I'm a reader, an oracle, empath, sensitive, whatever you want to call it. I have all of these extended, I guess you would say, abilities and emotions and feelings and things that I can comprehend beyond, right? So just leave that there already. But then something triggers an existential crisis that blows it up and magnifies it almost like 30,000 times. So you're like, oh my goodness. So for someone, speaking of myself, who experiences anxiety and depression, that blows it up 10 times worse, or 100 times worse, or 1,000 times worse. Just imagine, the last time that I experienced this was having a series of anxiety attacks, and then it kind of spiraled me into, I would say, have you ever felt like a walking zombie? I know everybody's probably saw The Walking Dead. You know what a walking zombie is? It's just like you're out of your mind and you're just going about your daily, but your mind is somewhat there but not there. Some people say like you done lost your mind, and then you get scared because you're like, oh my God, I lost my mind, or I almost lost my mind. And then it's just a repeated cycle. So it gets you anxious, then it triggers your anxiety, and then it triggers depression, and then it's just like, then you have these repetitive intrusive thoughts, and then it connects to OCD. It's just a whole myriad of things, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I just wanted, like, how do you make it stop? How do you turn your brain off? I remember telling my parents when I was a teenager, like, have you ever had this issue where you just can't stop your brain from like thinking? Like, I've always been analytical. I've always been a thinker. I've always thought outside the box. I've always been, open to concepts, understanding life and meaning of life and spirituality and all of these things. So I've always been open to that. And it's like my mind, academically, a very good student in school. So it's just like my mind was always thinking ahead. It's always thinking. It's always computing, almost like a computer. So it's like, it has its pros and cons, it's good and bad, so it's like, how it's good on one end, but it's like, how do I turn this off? Because it could be to your detriment, because you become mentally, emotionally, and physically tired. And all I gotta say is that existential crisis ain't no joke. How do you get out of it? I've learned through therapy, yes, I say therapy, and different coping mechanisms and techniques and different things for anxiety and depression. You gotta bring yourself back into reality, because even though we are spiritual beings, we have a soul. We've been here multiple times. We've done all of these amazing things. Some of us from different, I guess you would say galaxies and represent different species of people, right? You have to bring yourself back into this reality and be present in the moment. That goes back to meditation, breath work, and how you learn how to be in the moment, be present. Because with this, your mind is always thinking backwards or it's thinking forward, and it's always computing something that may not even happen. And you're scaring your own self because it's like your thinking has magnified. So you have to be in the present. And one of the coping mechanisms that I've learned is like 5 things right in front of you. You have to pick 5 things. Like right now, I'm sitting here at park. I see a nice tree right here. I see some grass. I see a gravel. I see a car parked. I see a track right here. I see somebody that's about to walk. So that's 5 things, right? I think that's 5. And then after that, 5 things that you can smell. Now, I don't know if you can smell 5 things at one time, but you probably can smell your breath, or you can smell what you was drinking, or you can pull something and open the lid and smell it. This is lemon and ginger water, right? So you have to bring yourself back to reality. And then another thing, those affirmations really work. So when you find yourself going into a period where you're spiraling down and you have those negative intrusive thoughts, or they're just blowing your mind, you have to replace that with affirmations. So whatever you continue to think on, that's what draws to you. So if you want something different, you have to rearrange or reprogram your computer, your mind. And so you have to think on those things that you do want to draw to you. So if you feel like you're spiraling or losing control, I am in control. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of ways to kind of cope with it and get past it and move forward. And I think as time goes, you'll be a little bit better, but it's just you're more conscious and you're more aware at this time. So one of the affirmations that I have is I see the good in every situation. So with this particular situation, you're like, whoa, how can I see the good in this situation? Dude, you are open. Like your mind is like blown to the point where you're thinking on grand scales. You may have tapped into some spirituality for yourself that can push you in positive ways, but you just got to get past this point and interpret it as a negative. And then also one thing else that I like to add that just came to mind, and then my mind has been everywhere as well, but the fact that when you get into this mode, everything becomes a little bit more sensitive to you. Things become surreal. Your emotions, your feelings that you usually tap into, your 5 senses, your emotions, like I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel happy, I feel joyous, different things like that. Everything can be lumped into anxiety or fear or worry, and then you can't differentiate what those emotions are, and then it makes you feel fearful or trapped into what you're thinking and everything that's going on in your mind. So you have to kind of break that, all right? But again, it takes time. Be gentle with yourself. Talk it out with someone.